The Miami Dolphins are a soft team, and it's not just in the trenches. I think it's at the quarterback spot, too. I'll tell you why in just a second here on Locked On NFL.
The barbershop is open, and Tony Wiggins has a chair for you. He's ready with some real NFL talk. The local experts of Locked On bring their expertise, and Wiggy is ready with his clippers and shears. Sit down and enjoy. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That is a fact. It is your team every day here on Locked On NFL. We thank you for making us your first listen. I am Tony Wiggins. He is Chris Carter. I, of course, I'm the host of the barbershop that hits you twice a day. Actually, Locked On NFL is twice a day. The barbershop here is in the afternoon. I'm the host of the afternoon Locked On NFL show where we give you some of the top stories from around the NFL and the news cycle. Chris Carter, of course, is covering the Pittsburgh Steelers with Locked On Steelers and, of course, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And we're going to run it down for you today. But first, we'd like to thank you for being here and taking your time. If you're an everydayer, we thank you for making us your team every day. If you're a first-timer, we appreciate you, too, and we'll give you a reason to come back and remind you that you can find our show wherever you get your podcast, whether you watch or whether you listen. We will be right there. Make sure you tap into that location. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Let me navigate you through what we're going to talk about today. A lot of training camp stuff. Lou DiBiase up with Locked On Eagles says the Eagles could possibly trade for a big-time defensive player. Do they need even more? We'll hit that at the end of the show. We're going up in the AFC North and hang around Cleveland where Myles Garrett says it's still Super Bowl to bust, and I almost fell out of my chair laughing. But the Browns are still the Browns, and we'll talk about why. But we're going to get to the very top and talk about the Miami Dolphins, amongst other things. I think they're soft. And my man, Matt Williamson, who you know very well from the building up in Pittsburgh, from the Peacock and Williamson podcast, and, of course, the Friday co-host here with me, he often says the Dolphins have too many Ferraris and not enough dump trucks. You know what else they have? They have too many people at the quarterback position that complain. Now, mind you, I am not going to sit here and call that man soft because he gets concussions. I think him actually playing, knowing that those concussions are always lingering, is actually a source of bravery, in my opinion. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about inside, Chris. It seems like Tua is always whining about something in the media.
No, I feel you. It's been interesting, man. It's been interesting to see the Packers, and it's been interesting to see how this has played out. I would have thought, with all the Tyreek things, with him wanting to be traded, and that either this would have been resolved, or they would have found a way. There would have been like a, hey, let's get this together. Let's just put this behind us. Let's focus on this year, because guess what? You still got Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Tua Tagovailoa, and you got Mike McDaniel. This is not a good sign for Mike McDaniels, in my opinion, because a big role of the head coach isn't just to call plays or come up with the schemes or adjust the thing. It's about managing people. And when you have a person that makes a comment like that, they either need to go or, there needs to be some sort of like, hey, we're gonna make this right. We're gonna do our best to put things together. Mike Tomlin's no stranger to people making noise, and the Steelers, we've seen it. Antonio Brown was the best receiver in football for 6 straight years, and he didn't play in the last game of the season. He was gone the next week, and then so went the career of Antonio Brown. George Pickens, he's gone. We've seen the Steelers, and if there's guys that are kept around, they're given like a, hey, this is what we need from you, so that comments from your quarterback aren't made like this. Because it'd be different if this was a 4th string wide receiver. If this was like, or a guy ending his rookie contract who's a 4th round pick, and it's just like, okay, but this is Tyreek Hill. This is one of the best receivers of the last 5-6 years in the NFL. You got to find a way to either move on from him or have this resolved, and clearly it's not resolved. When you go back and you look at exactly what Tua said, he said, quote, when you say something like that, you don't just come back with my bad. You got to work that relationship up. He is working on himself. I'm sorry, like, I hear his point in that Tyreek Hill messed up, and it's when you say something like that, it's not it's not going to go over well with the team. But that's where, as a team internally, you need to handle that before you come to us as the media, because now it's a circus fire. Now you and I are talking about this on Locked On NFL, and everyone else in Miami. It's the story of the week. So instead of focusing on training camp and getting better and how they're going to win, you'll finally win a playoff game for the first time in 25 years. This is what everyone's talking about. So I think this is another situation of the Dolphins got a lot more problems than people realize.
Yep. And Tyreek Hill basically said, I got to look out for me. This is the end of my career. This is a dude that has won championships. Nobody had a problem when Tyreek said that Tua was one of the most talented players he's ever been around before he ever even played a game with him, right? And now that Tyreek says that stuff, Tua's got to be careful because Tyreek's better than you. Listen to my man Kyle Krabs talk about Tyreek and maybe what might be his future or not his future in Miami.
I don't know that you'll be invested in Tyreek beyond 2025, but it feels like they're invested in him here in the here and now. And you make peace with that and you say, okay, like, we're going to ride it out for another year and then see where Tyreek Hill's at with his age 32 season when he's owed a whole lot of money. So I'm sure people will ask with Juwan Jennings. ESPN's Adam Schefter did report it today that he either wants a new contract or wants to be traded. There's pathways in which it would make sense for the Dolphins, but I think it's the right kind of player at the wrong time, personally, for where the Dolphins are at.
Tua has to be very, very careful with what he's doing because what Tyreek is doing is handling his personal business. And this is a dude that has tasted a championship. And I know once you've had it, you know when you ain't got it. And right now, I don't think the Dolphins have it, and I think he realizes it. And a big part of it is Tua. Tua has to learn, though, man, that going back and forth with Ryan Clark, while it looked tough, it kind of made you look soft. It's not. You ain't there for that, bro. You're there to stay healthy and lead the team and support your teammates. And the last thing you need to do is be alienating yourself from a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. Speaking of quarterbacks in Miami, this one we're talking about a quarterback from the University of Miami who had his first training camp taste of the NFL this week. Didn't go too well, according to Tyler Roll. And listen to this.
The Tennessee Titans' first training camp practice of 2025 is in the books, and Cam Ward called it mid. And according to all the reports coming out of practice, seems like he's pretty spot on. Up and down day, especially offensively. The Titans worked on a ton of quick game. Sounds like Cam Ward had some miscommunications on offense at times. There were a few passes that were batted away as well. Sounds like Jarvis Brownlee Jr. had a good day other than throwing up on the sideline after a contested opportunity with
Listen, man, I get it. Rookies struggle, right? But this thing with Cam Ward there's a derailment coming here. And the derailment is we don't know if Callahan can coach. We don't really know how good the offensive line is, if it's gotten any better. We don't even know if that team is any good, but I get a feeling that this dude's going to get blamed for everything because he was the first overall pick.
I mean, like, there's a lot of pressure when you are the first overall pick, but the Titans are a big project. We all knew that. They know that. And I think there's going to need to be time and patience for how this is going to go. They have a lot of rebuilding to do, not just the quarterback position. They aren't like one of these teams out here that's just had a lot of things in place, but just needed a quarterback to get over the top. You know, they're not like the Vikings, you know, in that situation, you know, or I'd say even the Steelers. They're a team that there's a reason they picked first overall, and it's because they're a pretty bad team and a pretty bad organization right now. They have a lot of things to fix. So Cam Ward's not going to fix things right now. Things should, you know, the fact that it was mid in practice might be a good sign because, you know, if it wasn't trash, then you're taking a step up. But you got it's the early days of training camp. I do not put that much stock in the early days of training. I remember Jamar Chase's rookie year, someone said even in the middle of training camp, he's dropping passes. He's going to be so bad. And then he was Jamar Chase, you know.
Yeah. First game of the year, 60 yards down the sideline, and he's doing the gritty, right? Yeah. I don't think that they are they're not even with the Giants. The Giants right now, if you get a rookie quarterback like the number 1 overall pick, and you got Malik Neighbors and Andrew Thomas, and then you got those dudes on the front seven and Slayton, you can go, you know what? It ain't that bad. I don't think you're there yet with the Tennessee Titans, and hopefully they give this kid a little bit of a break. I'll tell you who else ain't there. Cleveland. Myles Garrett says ain't nothing changed. He's still trying to win the Super Bowl. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, we're going to talk about them at the top of segment 2 while I laugh during the break here at Myles Garrett talking about the Super Bowl in Cleveland. We'll get to that in just a second here on Locked On NFL. Today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Yahoo Fantasy. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat, get your draft board ready, and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all the overreactions we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, me and my friends at Locked On Jaguars are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too if you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league, right? I mean, this is the only one I play. Yahoo is where I've been for the last 15 years, and I don't know why you do anything different because they're the absolute truth. To celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. It all begins August 4th. Stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a Yahoo Fantasy Football League at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. Moving and grooving here on Locked On NFL with my man Chris Carter from Locked On Steelers. And it's very, very appropriate that we go to the AFC North to talk about the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett says it's still Super Bowl or bust. You know what? I respect him for saying that. I really do. But they're gonna have the number one pick in the draft next year, if you ask me. And it ain't gonna. They're gonna finish first, all right. First one up to that podium next year to go take a quarterback, and it won't be because they got the Jaguars' first round pick either. Spencer German says, "Same old same." I knew he was gonna laugh when I said that. Same old same in Cleveland. Listen to Spencer German from camp up in Ohio.
It's day one of Browns training camp in the books, and I know what you want to hear about. You want to hear about the quarterbacks. It was very similar rotationally to how they ran things during minicamp. During 7-on-7s, it was Flacco to Pickett to Gabriel to Sanders. And then when you got to 11-on-11s, same exact way that it ended at minicamp, it was Pickett running with the ones, it was Dylan Gabriel running with the twos, and it was Shedeur Sanders running with the threes, Joe Flacco standing by as a spectator. So still plenty to unfold there in that area. I thought Dylan Gabriel had the best throw of the day, deep ball down the far sideline on a really nicely designed sort of fake boot to the left play and then throw back to the right. Kenny Pickett, I thought, was the most consistent of the guys that went in 11-on-11s today. He ended his session with a really nice ball, sort of pinpoint over the middle to Jerry Jeudy on a dig route that I thought was pretty phenomenal. So it was just day one. Still a lot to unfold in the quarterback competition, of course, but those were my big takeaways from that area. A couple other notes I have. Jerome Ford, absent today. Sounds like he's dealing with a minor injury. Also, Jordan Hicks and David Njoku were not out there at practice for what was an excused personal reason for each of them. So I'll have more for you. We'll break it all down. Make sure you tune in to Thursday morning's episode of the Locked On Browns podcast.
Listen, man, I don't like kicking people when they're down, right? But I will tell you this, and I'm being honest with you. I almost like the stripping everything down.
You want to kick somebody when they're down.
I almost like when you just strip it all down to the nuts, right? And to the studs, right? But the thing is, man, I'm not going to even lie and tell you I'm not looking forward to the Cleveland Browns preseason. I might watch every single game. In fact, I'm thinking about going to Philly the third week of August because I want to see all of these quarterbacks. It's intriguing, but sad at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, look, they say when you have two quarterbacks, you don't have one. What happens when you have four quarterbacks? You know, that's kind of that exactly. Yeah, that's what the situation they're in right now. And I say that as a person who's covered Kenny Pickett in the college and professional world, and I have a lot of respect for him as an individual and for how he approaches, every day. But let's be fair. Like Kenny Pickett, even if Kenny Pickett does a reasonable job this year, this Browns team has so much to work on. Its offensive line is crumbling. They paid Myles Garrett all this money, and I think that's great. But they had him last year when everybody else is on this team right now, and they were 3-14. Like
rookie running back in trouble.
Yeah, like that's right. The rookie running back they have, who was one of the more intriguing prospects they brought in. Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. They passed up on Travis Hunter, which still kind of wild. But I look at this and I'm like, I'm sorry, like I can't get excited for the Browns. They can't even get the reveal for their new helmet right, where someone's like falling in the lake And trying to
I saw homie fall in the lake, man. Come on, dog.
It's the Browns, man. They are the factory of sadness. They are the perpetual, just, even when they get it right, even when they pick the right dude, they somehow find a way to mess it up. So I'm not shocked by any of this thing. I think the Browns are in a position where they have a core of some players that I think are really good, like Garrett and Ward. I think are two really good players at their position, two of the best at their positions. But I think there's a lot of guys that are aging, a lot of guys that they're going to need to get rid of to rebuild. The quarterback situation is still a mess. If they get the first overall pick next year, they need to go after I think this is going to be a really good quarterback class. They need to spend it on one of those guys. If Arch Manning's coming out, it'd be really interesting to see if he goes to the Browns or if his family pulls what they did for Eli Manning and said, nah, get him out of here, send him to the Giants or something.
Yeah. Maybe Lenore Sellers. Or maybe that's who you want in
Pittsburgh. A big Lenore Sellers guy.
So I'm sitting there trying to start a whole bunch of family mess up there in the AFC North. But I'll tell you what, you got to surround these players, and it's nice to have a situation where you bring in guys into, right? So Carolina didn't have that. All of a sudden, though, when they started playing a little bit better down the stretch, and then they add a solid piece in Ted McMillan in the draft, you're like, I want to see what this 6'4" wide receiver does, and does that help Bryce Young a little bit? Well, according to Julian Council, so far so good with Ted McMillan.
But I'm looking at things now with a guy being taken in the top 10 and looking at the numbers that Harrison Jr., that Neighbors, and Adunze put up not only last year, but back in college, pretty similar to what Tyler McMillan did. And he's going in the top 10. So if there's going to be any sort of comparisons, it should be with those guys and not really with anybody who was taken in the 20s or in the 30s from a season ago. So I am very curious to see how quickly he settles into a starting role.
Sometimes we get caught up in the draft looking for a superstar, especially in the top 10. And when a person doesn't project to be that, we think, well, you know what? People felt that way about Mike Evans. And I'm just only comparing them because of their body types. But I think Tedroy McMillan is a quiet, nice, solid addition that's going to really help that football team.
And I think he's in a good position with the Panthers in that they have other guys for people to look at. Like, he's not coming into a receiver room where it's like, hey, that's the only one we have to worry about, because Xavier Legette, I thought, was a really good pick. I thought he's been solid. You got a veteran in Adam Thielen who's not going to scare the bejesus out of teams, but he's one of those guys that oh, wait a minute, he's cutting us up because he still knows how to run his routes. And then you got other guys like Hunter Renfrow down the depth chart. But there's opportunities for Ted McMillan to be a really good player as a rookie and come out. And, maybe he doesn't take other teams' best cornerbacks right away, which that's always rough. When you're the number one guy and number one corners are gunning for you, that is a welcome to the NFL season. You will be beat up and down the field by physical corners who just want to bully you. And he's a big guy. He's a physical guy, but it's a different level in the NFL. So I think he's in a fine situation. We got to see how he plays. I liked him in college. I liked him coming into the draft. So, I hope he does well. But yeah, I think the big thing here is going to be, I think they have other wide receiver talent. Can Bryce Young bring that to fruition with his quarterback play? We talked with, Julian's been talking about how, hey, he finished strong on the season with some of his numbers. I still got to see it, consistently, but there's some potential there in Carolina.
It is some potential, and I expect him, and I know comps are hard to do, so that's why I usually take two people. I'm going to take Cortland Sutton because of the body type and the speed numbers, but then I want to say Rashee Rice in terms of how you can use them and kind of blend them together and hope that's the best you're going to get from Ted McMillan. If you can do that, that's pretty damn good in my opinion, especially if it causes the team to be able to keep the ball more and get more first downs, which usually leads to time of possession, which usually leads to winning. Speaking of time, we're on a time limit, so we're going to make sure we get to the champions and talk about the fact that those dudes want to be even more greedy than they should be. Nah, champions are always supposed to keep chomping at the bit, and that's exactly what Lou thinks they're doing in Philadelphia. We'll talk about them and who they might be chasing in just a second here on Locked On NFL. All right, today's show is sponsored and brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning big purchases, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center, and you can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Man, having everything in one app is easy for me because I ain't that tech savvy. So I need that one push button effort that Monarch Money gives me. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use the code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. Moving along here with my man Chris Carter on Locked On NFL, where it is your team every day. We thank you for making us your first listen. Training camps have started around the National Football League, and that means teams are jockeying for position to make sure that they can do everything that they can now that they won't be able to do during the season. And Philly may be thinking about acquiring yet another good player on defense. Let me open this gift box and see the surprise that Lou DiBiase is about to drop on us from Locked On Eagles.
So Howie Roseman today talked about potentially using one of those 13 draft picks he has next year to potentially make a move to help the 2025 run, which I totally agree with. Yeah, you could use some of those picks to collect future assets and future drafts. You can use those picks to move up in next year's draft. But I do think a pick or two should be used on this year's run. So naturally, I started thinking about like what teams aren't going to be competing for a title this year, who could be sellers at the trade deadline, and what positions the Eagles could go for. I think they would probably target a pass rusher or a defensive back. Like if the Cardinals aren't in it, is a Budda Baker available? I think about the Saints because they're probably going to be the worst team in football. Like Cameron Jordan, he's 36. Maybe he's your Ndamukong Suh signing this year, or Linval Joseph. I mean, he still had 4 sacks last year. Maybe he's a guy. Rashid Shaheed, though, receiver, is somebody that really interests me. He's a 4-3 burner. You could put next to Brown and Smith on the offense. He's on a 1-year deal. New Orleans trying to save some cash. He's somebody that really intrigues me.
That man act like he going through the dollar store with a pocket full of money trying to sit here and take away from teams. But this is what good teams do. And by the way, he said the Eagles have 13 draft picks next year. Oh, my. All of that stuff is good, but do you think that they need to be going after somebody, or do you think they need to keep that currency and just play with who they have and just go ahead and save it for the future? Because next year's draft is really, really strong.
It's really strong, but be aggressive. You got a team right now that you know can win because it just won. You got it in your hands right now. If I'm the Eagles, I am not pulling any punches right now. If there's some opportunities there, right now they have $30.5 million in cap space. That's plenty of money to spend around. Like Howie Roseman is just balling right now for the Eagles right now, as far as giving them opportunities. And look, they may not win another Super Bowl with this crew, but that's why you got to take your swings now. When you have a crew, you gotta. Hey, we're going all in with this crew. We're going to give them every shot while still keeping your eye on the future. Don't sell the farm. But when I think that the Eagles, they have opportunities here right now to build, to add, and if they see a move that works to their advantage. Howie Roseman's made a lot of great calls in his time as GM. He's the reason why they're in this position right now. Let him cook. If he sees something, I would trust Howie Roseman's judgment, because I think that, them being aggressive, that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. They're in the position, hey, when the rich get richer, you have a lot of power to make yourself richer. And that's what the Eagles need to do right now. So I'm with Louis. If they see an opportunity there, if they think, oh, we can add this piece here or this piece there, that's going to make us even better than we were last year, by all means, go and do it. I just wouldn't give up any of your young superstars. The one thing I believe in, though, is when you have a young superstar like a Jalen Carter, there are certain guys that need to be untouchable. He's one of those guys. Saquon Barkley right now, untouchable. Like I would protect so many of these key players like that right now. But as far as some of those picks you're talking about, maybe you add them in because you're saying, hey, we got another chance to go back to back right now.
If you were Mike Brown, and I know that's a big ask for me to ask you to act like you're Mike Brown, and I'm Howie Roseman, and I call you and say, look, I got this guard that's competing for our right guard spot, but we think we got a guy that can probably win it. His name's Tyler Steen. So I got Tyler Steen in a 3rd round pick. Send me Trey Hendrickson. Would you do it?
Repeat that again. I got to think that again.
Guard Tyler Steen and a 3rd round pick, or counter offer. They ain't getting a 1st rounder, but Tyler Steen, because Cincinnati needs it so bad. Can I get away with giving you a 3rd rounder? Or if you ask me for a 2nd rounder, you got to send me a 4th back.
Oh, I'll do that second for a fourth all day. And you telling me the Eagles get Trey Hendrickson? Oh yeah, I'm doing that easily. Let's swap second and fourths. Give me Trey Hendrickson if I'm the Eagles. I got an edge rusher that's one of the best in the NFL. Take this guard. We breed offensive linemen in Philly.
What about Mike Brown? Would you do it if you were Cincinnati?
It depends if I can. Listen, if I was Mike Brown, I'd be doing a lot of different things right now. I would have. Trey Hendrickson would be in camp. So would Shamar Stewart. So would everybody. There would be no questions as far as who there's a lot of things. I would be protecting Joe Burrow from getting another season-ending injury with more investments in the offensive line. So would I do it if I was him? I'd be doing a lot of different things if I was him. So it's tough for me to answer that specific one. If I was him, I'd be pushing that pick down a little bit. I would be fine with right now. It seems like what the situation they have with Trey Hendrickson is irreparable. Like they're not going to be able to bring that back, unless they kick out a lot of money, and I don't know if they can do that with all the other things they're trying to do. So if you find that's irreparable, find a way to get rid of him and get a return back that's actually going to help you. And maybe if the guard's what you think. Maybe that's the move, but there's a lot of things I would do differently if I was the Bengals right now.
Yeah, there's a team out in Denver that's trying to make some noise. They're kind of on the same par with Pittsburgh. Like they're not one of those 3 or 4 elite teams, but they're the next level. But it's different. Pittsburgh's trying to stay at that position. Denver is now trying to infiltrate that spot. They had a little help for their quarterback from a familiar but strange person. Check this out.
These new additions are going to be crucial toward the Broncos actually making a run at the Kansas City Chiefs here in the AFC West. And so let's start with what I believe is the most important guy offensively that this team added in 2025. That would be tight end Evan Engram. Engram is the missing piece for the Denver Broncos offense. Now, it's not just a piece in the offense, it is the missing piece, potentially, of the offense, which last year we saw was lacking tremendously a threat over the middle of the field on a consistent basis. And that's where Evan Engram, who nearly set the NFL record among tight ends for receptions in a season, can play such a huge role. Not only can he sit down and beat zone coverage, not only is he good in the middle of the field, but he's great after the catch. He's excellent at the catch point. He's a weapon in the red zone. And we're looking forward to seeing what kind of impact he can make as far as getting that chemistry going with Bo Nix early on.
Evan Ingram's interesting. He's an interesting player. I'll give you some comments on him because he spent the last couple of seasons here in Jacksonville. Drew Brees helped out Bo Nix. If Ben Roethlisberger goes down and helps Bruce Arians, who's still in the front office with Tampa with Baker Mayfield, I know Steelers fans will absolutely go crazy. But I do believe Ingram's okay. The thing is, I disagree with Sayer. He's okay in the middle, but it's on those little drag routes, the short intermediate. Right? He's not a seam killer. He's gonna get most of his stuff outside the hash marks, and that's what drives me crazy. He's a straight up move tight end. I'm not a fan of the move tight end because I think it gives you poker tells. Like if he's in the game, y'all probably ain't running, and I think that helps the defense a lot. But Bo Nix getting that help from Drew Brees, I think we're going to see if he's going to take the next level. And a lot of people talking about sophomore slumps with Jaden Daniels. Maybe they need to be saying it with Bo Nix.
We may be. We got to see, right? I thought Bo Nix surprised me. I thought Bo Nix was going to have a terrible rookie year. Like when he came out the draft, I was like, oh, buddy. And then he goes to a team like the Broncos that had a lot of things that need to work on. I was like, oh, buddy. But he surprised me. I will give Bo Nix a ton of credit. I did not think he was going to do what he did last year. So with that, I'm going to give him some grace. I'm going to say, you know what? That guy got into the playoffs last year. Let's see how they work. And you know what? Sure, you'd like guys that can hit those seams that can go vertical, but in today's NFL, horizontal threats are very dangerous especially when they can get that yak. If they can shake you loose, come across the middle part of the field, and then can get the yards that way, that's ways to stress interior zones. That's a way to stress man coverage, and that's a way to stress the middle part of the field that opens up more of those deep routes for your other guys. So I wouldn't dismiss that. I like Bo Nix and what he's done. I like what what they're trying to build there. I'd give it some more time. I'm not going to doom these guys to being irrelevant this year. But yeah, I'm willing to say, hey, you know what? You surprised me last year, Broncos. Let's see what you do this year. But that AFC West is going to be tough because the Chiefs are still there. I think the Chargers are coming up with Jim Harbaugh. This could be a really interesting year for the Broncos if they're able to do some damage there.
Teams that are used to beating on Brendan Staley because of his late game coaching decisions, or Josh McDaniels or whoever was coaching the Raiders. Those days are over with. I mean, you might beat them because they're better than you or you're better than them, but you're not going to beat them because they're not prepared, because each one of those coaches understand what it takes to win, and they're going to do everything they can to have their guys prepared. Just like we were prepared when we did our Locked On NFL Top 100. It is here, voted on by the NFL hosts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Our Top 100 was formed by experts that cover these teams and players every day. Find the full list on Locked On Sports Today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't miss all of the reactions from around the network where the players landed, like me saying people were crazy to put my guy Travis Hunter even in the top 100, but it happened. All right. So make sure you check out the Locked On Sports Today Top 100 by the Locked On NFL hosts. All right, Chris, I know we both got to get to it. Go cover some training camp for our respective teams. We thank you for joining us today. We'll have more stuff as we get ready for football, man. This is where you get your food. You get all of your dietary needs here for the NFL on the Locked On Podcast Network, and you make sure you tap in every day so you get that nourishment. All right, until next time, we'll see you later. I'm Tony Wiggins. He's Chris Carter.